Welcome back to Football Fundits and to another episode of Fantasy Premier League Football. It's less than 24 hours to the first transfer deadline of this season's Fantasy Premier League. If you caught our last video yesterday, we told you we're pretty much done with our final teams, and we will be revealing our final teams in this episode, including our strategy for the same teams and our captaincy picks, right? Abhishek joins us today and he'll be revealing his team first. Abhishek, let's get straight into it. So, Abhishek, just illustrate for us what was your strategy, picking this team. Did you envision using a wild card early, or are you happy with what you have so far?
Right off the bat, Annie, I think this is an FPL like none other, right? And I know you guys have covered it because all kinds of crazy things are happening. Rashford midfielder, Aubameyang midfielder, like what is going on? But yeah, I'll just jump straight into my team, which is the team on the left that everyone can see. I've gone with Alex McCarthy as my goalkeeper. I think best value for money option, given that Southampton have been known to keep a pretty solid defense. And, at 4.5, I think he's a very, very good pick because it allows you to save as well. At the back, so now I'm the kind of guy who, I'd rather spend heavy on defense and keep defenders who are not defenders. Right? If you look at my three defenders at the back, two of them aren't technically defenders. I've gone for the Trents.
You've gone the opposite of what I have. I've taken a risk by going for just pure centre back and maybe your untried winger of sort, and Ruben says is a safe player only because I prefer putting all my power in midfield and the strike force, right? So I can see you've done that. Sorry, you can continue after this. But I can also see you've done what I've done. You've gone for a starting keeper, and at secondary keeper, you've taken a 4.0 to get that 0.5 into your defense, right?
Money in the bank. Money in the bank.
Without that, you could not get Doherty and Alexander-Arnold and Aubameyang and Salah and Werner, right, in your team.
I think the other thing that's fundamentally different that I can also see is while we've gone at a similar attacking route, Annie, I have taken Ali, who's 8, and you've taken Son, who's 9. Now, even that one extra point there, I think is the reason why I'm able to bring in a Wilfried Zaha and why you're at Saint Maximin. Now, Saint Maximin had a great end to last season, and if I'm not mistaken, he's at 5.5, whereas Zaha is at about 7 this season. Now, the other thing that I'll just quickly come back to Doherty, right? For me, under Jose's system, he's not going to be a defender. I think he's going to be more of a winger, midfielder.
And that's something we spoke about in the last episode. For people, you've managed to squeeze in Trent and Doherty, right? One of the people who've not taken in, Trent. Doherty is a good fix at 6.0, who's not that expensive, not cheap, but just enough to fit into your team, right? If you want to go with 4.5s and a 6.
The other way that I look at FPL strat is when you go for defense, some people will say that you need to have a good combination of defenders who will either A, give you guaranteed clean sheet points, or people who have a better chance of giving you attacking points because a goal scored or an assist is good points for a defender. I think I've gone a little too aggressive. I'm relying a lot on Doherty and Trent to give me assist points, right? Because I don't see Spurs and Liverpool keeping those many clean sheets. So that's about my defense. I think Justin is someone that a lot of FPL managers will have. Again, great value for money. Leicester will keep a mean and tight defense. So that could be an interesting pick.
Yeah, I was about to say, we covered, if everyone was watching, right? We did cover fixtures in the last episode where we talked about Everton. We spoke about Wolves, Southampton, even Chelsea. They do have decent fixtures. Spurs seem to have the best fixtures off the block. You've considered Delhi, you've developed Dele Alli and Doherty. And we also spoke about the fact that since he moved out to midfield, Son at 9, Dele Alli at 8. Kern last time mentioned about Havertz at 8.5. Is there any reason you didn't consider Havertz?
I honestly, left to me, I would have taken Hakim Ziyech at any cost. Havertz for me at 8.5 was still a little expensive. Ziyech at 8 presents incredible value for money. If you watch a little bit of football, this guy is going to take every set piece for Chelsea. He's going to be a focal attacker for them, but unfortunately he's injured. He's not back till the 26th of September.
Yep, so this is the first 3 game weeks.
The reason I also didn't take Havertz is because for me it was a trade-off, right? Do I want to rely that strongly on a Chelsea attack? I felt I didn't want to because it's a relatively new side and I'm gunning for, the reason why I have Timo Werner is actually more emotional. German, tall, terrific centre forward, debut for Chelsea, Premier League. So I'm going for a brace. I'm being very romantic when I say this, but for me, that's the reason I picked Timo Werner. So then I asked myself, do I want to compromise on Doherty, bring in Havertz instead of Zaha. And then I thought, you know what, Zaha is more of those Premier League proven goal scorers, assists. He's the focal point, the top man for Crystal Palace. So in those terms, I thought he's a slightly better trade-off.
It's interesting. Last year though, after he was linked with Everton for so long, he didn't turn out to have the best season possible. But I understand your thinking behind that. Although you could, if the season does pick up, we also covered Newcastle in the last episode, right? Newcastle have good fixtures coming in, and they got Fraser at 6. Now, Fraser could turn out to be a good player along with Saint Maximin in the end. A good 1 point cheaper or $1 million cheaper than Zaha. But, let's move on from Dele Alli and Zaha. And let's talk about Salah firstly and then Aubameyang, right? Why Salah over Mane? And would you consider between Salah and Aubameyang, who would you consider switching out for, let's say, a De Bruyne or a Sterling when the Man City and United asset players come in next week?
So coming to Salah and Mane, and why I've picked Salah is because, again, I think he is, if Liverpool were to get a penalty, I think Salah will be the man who'll step up. Liverpool are known to sort of have a very red-hot area in terms of attacking, and they're playing a relatively easier fixture. So I do see a lot of goals in that. And it's just a punt that I'm taking. But where I'll bring in the controversy is that I will actually switch over Salah for a United player, not a City player, for the next game week. I think United have a better fixture, and I'm going to bring in Paul Pogba. I genuinely think Paul Pogba is a good differential, and at 8.0, he could allow me to make future tweaks as well. So that's the change that I'm making.
Yeah, but fair enough. Yeah, I'm guessing next week if Paul Pogba does end up starting, that is a good punt to consider, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, if he recovers and starts,
and
of course.
I would still say, looking at the fact that United haven't strengthened on the right-hand side, Greenwood at 7.5 is at 0.5 cheaper would get in your assists, right? Let's move on to Aubameyang, right? Do you think Aubameyang is someone who will be in your team throughout, or after the first couple of game basis fixtures do tend to get a little bad, right?
Aubameyang for me is, he's a set and forget because he is from Arsenal. He's pretty much the only asset that I see because he's a guaranteed goal scorer. And the fact that FPL have upgraded him to midfielder is almost FPL's way of saying just set and forget, right? Because Auba is their only goal scorer. He could top the league come end of the season, and he's going to give you extra points for goals as well. So it's a set and forget for me.
The only thing that I also worry about, these are the early day guys, and this is what I've said in the last video as well, and so did Kern tell us, right? Kern prefers not taking too many minuses over the coming season. I'm saying you have to plan those minuses if you really must take it. I also agree with him that don't take them if you don't have to. But in the first 2-3 weeks, you don't get your formation right, and plus with COVID, and I'm going to keep hammering this point, don't let it affect your planning, right? But be prepared for the worst case where a player might be sick and you might have to make those switches, right? Especially with the 2 international breaks in October, November. I feel that maybe not putting in Sterling from my first week of preparing. So my very first draft, guys, had Martial. I took Martial out in my last draft, and I think he might stay out as well. Because for me, I don't know, not having Martial, even though I was risking starting with 10 players only, was not settling well with me. That's the only change I might still make, guys. I'm not sure. But let's move on to Abhishek's forwards, and I'll link it to my team then. Werner is starting. You already covered Werner. Don't you think, and you're starting with Wilson, don't you think it's too early to take Wilson into your team? Injury prone last year, didn't have a very good season. Rough to start with, barely any training with the team.
On the contrary, the way I'm looking at Wilson is almost like this is probably the best time to take him because after a game week or two, he's gonna get injured and he's gonna go out. And I feel Newcastle tend to start off seasons pretty well, and they're playing West Ham away. I think it's a goal scoring fixture. Wilson will have a point to prove, and he comes at a great value. I think he's at about 6.5 if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's interesting value for someone like Wilson. But I must confess, I'm not fully sold on this yet. It is my final team right now, but there could be a last minute switch just on Wilson. But as of right now, I'm very, very confident of keeping him for the time being.
Fair enough. And Mitrovic, I think, so I have switched between Che Adams and Mitrovic a couple of times over the last few days. I think Mitrovic is someone who I'm going to finally stick to only because I did not want to go 3 Southampton players. And I still see myself maybe downgrading Saez to Walker-Peters, and then I didn't want Che Adams as well. But what is your reasoning for Mitrovic?
Yeah, I think he's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League, man. Like when Fulham were in the Premier League 2 years ago, even when they finished bottom of the league, he was in a lot of FPL teams, and like we've seen, he's not stopped scoring, right? And I think this London derby fixture, promises to be a really, really cracking one. And Mitrovic has a good goal scoring record against the top four as well. Well, in Arsenal's case, against the top eight as well. But I think Mitrovic is a no-brainer to a large extent. He's going to get goals this season. It'll be good to have him back in the Premier League. One more thing I'm going to bring up, Annie, is if you look at it, I have Mitchell as my first substitute, right? And I'm likening this Mitchell a lot to Kelly last season in the FPL, who was also Crystal Palace defender. Crystal Palace have this uncanny knack of turning out clean sheets when you don't expect them to at all. So while they're playing Southampton at home, I don't think that's going to be a clean sheet. And the other thing that I was thinking of was, should I downgrade Dele Alli to a 5-point-ish and actually try and bring Danny Ings, who's at 8 or 8.5, because Ings is going to get a lot of goals. But then I chose against that, right? Because Danny Ings plays against Crystal Palace, and I didn't think Southampton had the most favourable fixtures. So that's why I went for Mitchell as my first substitute, because I think there are some points to be had with him. I think he's going to be an interesting person to keep.
So the thing I think about Mitchell is something that we covered in the last episode again. Ferguson is injured, 4.0 again.
Yeah.
But Ferguson, once he comes back, will be the starter. And I have Mitchell in my team right now as well. But I'm quite sure I'm going to end up switching to Ferguson in the end, because once Van Holt comes back, Van Holt walks into the side and Mitchell has no place again. But for now, especially for people who are planning to use a wild card game week 4, game week 3, it's worth taking the risk till then, because Mitchell will be starting at least 2 game weeks, right? So you covered the benches. We both have Stephens because he's a Phil 4.5, Brighton starter. Let's not talk too much about it.
Yeah.
We've spoken about our keepers. See, I've gone for Taylor only because Burnley has good fixtures and Burnley always churn out those clean sheets somehow, right? Taylor at 4.5 seemed like an easy walk into a Burnley possible 10, 12 clean sheets in the season, at least, if not more.
True.
We've broken down our sides, and I'll talk a bit about my side now to just give my more reasoning to why I've made a few changes. Yeah. So I already spoke about Che Adams to Mitrovic. I've downgraded my keeper, like I said in the last episode, from Ryan and gone to Steer. And I added that 0.5 to my defender. I didn't want to deal with the whole Vinagre situation. Will he start? Won't he start? Is he going to leave? So I took Ruben Says, because I said in the last episode, I trusted him last season. He got me those points. Yes, yellow cards are a problem, but you know what? Wolves is a solid unit. Wolves had great fixtures along with Spurs. I do see them keeping clean sheets. Johnny is a miss, but Willy Bolly is fit. Connor Cody is fit. I think they'll just about do good enough over there again. We've discussed our teams right now, and these will be our teams going into it. My only change, like I said, I mostly see is Werner out for Martial and me going with the 4-4-2. Although 4-4-2 still doesn't sit well in my stomach, it causes me a little anxiety, right? Abhishek, let's move on to your captain pick. So you've gone for Salah, I've gone for Aubameyang. Why Salah? Simple, Leeds at home, no brainer, championship side coming up, maybe the nerves.
Yeah, all of that. Set pieces, penalty. I see penalties in this. I see at least a penalty in this. Liverpool's opening fixture, title champions, emotions will be high. They'll be all gunning for it. Salah is definitely getting on the score sheet for me. Whereas my second option would have been Aubameyang, right? But my only risk with Aubameyang is he plays for a team called Arsenal FC, and they're going to play a resurgent Fulham who are back in the Premier League, and it's an away fixture. So that's why I was a bit wary of it. And I just, in fact, my question to you is, why not Harry Kane for captain? Home fixture against Everton.
So the reason why I'm not gone for Harry Kane as captain is because we saw a prelude or, like a trailer to this fixture in the end of the Premier League season. It was a stalemate, right? Mourinho versus Ancelotti. Yeah. They might be managing Spurs and Everton, but it felt like we were in the Serie A, right? So I'm a little wary about Kane. Was patchy again when he played for England in the Nations League. Kane was a little off in the preseason as well. I'm just a little worried about the number of goals I'll get in. I do see him getting a goal for sure. I do see Spurs taking this result. But I see Fulham away. I see Aubameyang in form. He got that goal in the Community Shield as well, right? So I just think Aubameyang is the fix for me. Salah has been patchy for me again in preseason. That's the only reason. But yeah, my captain picks are Oba first, Salah second. And if at all I do change my mind, my third pick would actually be Son over Kane. So we've covered our captain picks also for this weekend. One last bit of caveat we can give the managers who are tuning in terms of tips, right? Firstly, guys, do not forget the deadline is 90 minutes before kickoff, 90 minutes before the kickoff of the first game, not 60. I would recommend not waiting till the last 2 hours to to make your teams. You do not want that kind of anxiety. Plan, have your own plan in place, right? Try to strategize for at least 2 or 3 game weeks. And if things don't work out, don't panic. It is still early days, right? You can take a few minuses in the start and turn it around. Worst case, you can wildcard after the after the fourth game week when the international break comes in, right? Injuries come in there, you can strategize that time. Trust yourself. Don't have too many over. Don't keep changing your side. We've all done it. I did it myself. Everyone has this. And in the end, set and forget and have a good night's sleep. So that was this episode. We finally revealed our teams, our captaincy picks. Hit us up in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. We're happy to engage with you. Thank you so much for tuning into all our FPL episodes. We've done one on budget picks, our first drafts, best fixtures. You can catch all of those as well. I'll leave the links in the section below. Don't forget to hit subscribe on our channel, hit like on all our videos, turn on your notifications, and we will see you next week. We will be taking a break this weekend from our regular videos. Will be available on Instagram Live. We'll hopefully see you next week after all of you have had a great first FPL game week. See you guys.